Go.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Thursday's conversation with me, Adrienne Marks, and the awesome, wonderful, amazing Marina Nani. Um, I hope you're all having a really good week. I'm having a very interesting time, and the subject tonight is stress. I heard a very good story the other day that a friend told me, and it's about lobsters. I don't know if you know, but when lobsters are little and they start growing, and as they grow and they've got their and they're really sort of quite soft and squishy, but then they start growing, and then their shell doesn't grow with them, so they become really uncomfortable. So what they have to do is they have to break the shell. They have to sort of squeeze out of the shell and break it, and then they grow another shell. And then of course the same things happens with that shell. And so it happens till they become a fully grown lobster with a shell that fits them. And so when I heard the story, I thought, how very appropriate, because so often we say, well, I'm stressed, when we have a goal and we say, and you're trying to do something and you say, well, I'm really stressed, and you're very uncomfortable because it's, you're like the lobster. Your shell, your comfort zone, if you like, is keeping you sort of bound up in that sort of space. And so you can't sort of do anything. And you're like, I have to get out of this. I have to get out of this. And so when you break it and you think, oh, that's better, and then you start to grow another shell. And the thing is that that one gets uncomfortable as well. And so it doesn't become not uncomfortable until you've reached that pinnacle, which I don't think anybody ever reaches. So you've got to expect to be uncomfortable. You can't expect it to be smooth all the time. That as we're growing, as I say, always say, little baby steps. As you take each step of the way, each step of your journey, you're going to hit a plateau, a step, a landing, whatever you want to call it, and you'll be there, and the shell's getting uncomfortable, and you think, well, I have to get out of that, because you don't want to be sort of encased in this thing that's too tight. So you have to break out of it. And then you break out of it, it's like this huge relief, and it's like, oh, that's amazing. But it really is one step at a time. You don't have to see the whole staircase to put your foot on the first rung of the ladder. Um, so I thought how wonderful it is, and it's so appropriate because we've been talking over the last few weeks about getting out of the space that we're in, and finding a way to do this where it's not uncomfortable, to be able to live our dreams, live to our heart's desires, get some me time, really start listening to our hearts and wanting more about what we want to do. And I think quite often on that journey, what we find is that we're going along and we think it's okay. And then, of course, people around us don't think it's okay at all. And that's when we start sort of questioning ourselves and thinking, well, if my husband doesn't like it, or my children don't like it, or, my boss doesn't like it, then maybe it's not really what I want to do. But then in the darkest recesses of your mind, in the sort of early hours of the morning where there's no one but you to listen to your thoughts, I mean, you just know, because it makes you feel comfortable or it makes you feel uncomfortable. Many years ago, my mother used to say to me, if in doubt, don't. And you just know. And if I look back on various episodes in my life and I think about them now, and I think I didn't listen to what was going on inside me. I didn't listen to my heart, or what, my stomach, or whatever it was that was feeling uncomfortable. I didn't get out of it, and so I went on. But in the situations where I did get out of situations and I thought it's uncomfortable, but it's going to be more uncomfortable staying here, that's when I really felt empowered and feeling that it was worthwhile. And sometimes you've got to be very brave, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all, but you have to do it because you want to live the life that you can of joy and abundance and the most amazing feelings imaginable. And you don't want to live this quiet little, life is too short, and you don't want to live this life where you're living it for somebody else, whether it's a parent or a spouse or a boss. You have to do what makes your heart sing, not what makes somebody else's heart sing. So you've got to do that. What do you think, Marina?
Wow, Adrienne, you just made me write down something, actually.
Okay.
I wrote down, thank you for having Adrienne Marks in my life.
Ah,
It's so it's so profound. Everything you say got, every single word actually got a very powerful tune in my own experiences. And I remember a couple of years ago when I wrote another little letter, perhaps the most important letter of my entire life. I wrote down, "Dear stress, give me a break." And I turned my back on
absolutely.
everything. I just realized that if something doesn't work, there's no point in taking, you know, another another path, or there's no point in trying something else or diversion, or you just take a bigger hammer and break it out.
Yeah.
It's Clarity only comes with a happy mind. And we discussed about this in previous episodes, and you know my from my own experience, when after I wrote that letter, I had no idea what to do next. I really had no clue. What should I do
Mm.
now that I draw a line? Let's break up. And what's next? I was used to the level of stress, the high level of stress I had in my life, and I thought it's normal. I knew nothing else. So what I realized and I discovered, and perhaps many of our listeners could relate to this, I discovered that actually I am now free to choose my thoughts. I have
Mm.
that ability, which I never used before. Before, I always like to listen to everyone, and I try so hard to keep them happy. And it was no way. It was no way because, as you know, everybody got a mind of its own. They don't say what they want, and it's very hard to guess. You don't have a magic ball and think, a crystal ball, and ask what is my boss thinking, or what is my client thinking, or what is my husband, whoever is in that relationship, um, and the stress bridges that relationship, because stress could be the only connection between two people
Mm.
sometimes, and that's very sad. So unless you break free and come out and just wonder and find your own resources, because we are not famous for resources, but we are famous for being resourceful. So when somebody is telling me what they've done in their life, and I listen and I'm thinking, honestly, I don't really care what they've done before. All I want to know, what are they doing right now, who they are right now.
Right.
And when people are talking about their past, I'm thinking, what a shame, what a waste of time. You know, why? Why to bring all these memories that made you stronger is true, but why would you waste your time instead of developing your ability to choose a better thought over a bad thought, a good thought, a wonderful thought over a negative thought, or over a horrible thought. Sometimes stress make you who you are not.
Exactly. And it's funny you're saying about your thoughts being, and why do people live in the past? And I think sometimes I've seen people do this or heard people do it, and I think sometimes because for them there were, what they've got at the moment, their present isn't as good as their past. And so they'll relive it. They'll talk to people and they'll say, "Oh, do you remember when? Do you remember when? And we did this and we did that." And it is very sad. And what they're not doing, they're living in the past, and what they're not doing is building their thoughts for the future, because that's what they say. You can't live for tomorrow. You can't live for yesterday. You've got to live in the now. But what you've got to do in the now is make your thoughts so that your future becomes this bright, shining thing that's a pleasure to be in, because we're each 100% responsible for everything that goes on in our lives. And if someday you wake up and something awful's going on, unfortunately, you've caused that by the thoughts that you had a week ago or a month ago or whenever it was. So you've got to be very careful, and you've got to really guard your thoughts and be aware. And that's why I always say, when you're in a stress state, when you're in a bad state, when you're not feeling at your best, and these thoughts go on, about, oh, this is awful and that's awful, you have to be very careful, because if you keep thinking like that, then tomorrow will be even worse.
What do you say? What would you say, Adrienne? Just ignite something. You ignite something in my mind as usual. Um, do you think that during duress, times of great stress, and when everything crashes down on you, during great adversity, when everything and everyone is against you, is best to look inside and find something to create? For example, I remember when I first started my letting agency, which I had no clue, this is of course over 20 years ago, where to start or what to do. So I just done it my own way, which meant that I was working really long hours. I was working 7 days a week, and midnight was early. So you see, sometimes I just felt the need to scream and I couldn't. Sometimes I felt the need to cry and I couldn't. So what I've done instead, I went to a little shop, and I got a couple of blank canvases, some colors and some brushes, and I started painting. So that took me through that tough period when I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And while the results were great and everybody was very happy, and I was doing all sorts of, extra mileage for every single person coming across, I couldn't do anything for myself. And I had no one to talk to. My children were very, very young, and I was struggling with language barrier. I was struggling with absolutely everything, but I was keep smiling, and that helped me. But at some point, I reached a degree of stress that I had no idea what the hell I'm doing, and why I'm working so hard when everybody else will close 5 o'clock and they'll have a weekend. I never had the weekend, and so on. So I didn't feel like a victim. I felt absolutely exhausted. And when I was painting, it's very strange that I just remember the story yesterday, this part of my life yesterday. And somebody came to my office, and while waiting for me, because I was looking for keys or showing around to other people, some sort of, I was having juggling so many plates at the same time. It was just incredible. I don't know how I survived that period. But in any case, so this couple, they're looking at them, and when I came, so they're really beautiful. So I was a bit embarrassed because I didn't expect them to look at them, or And he said, "Are those your properties?" And Adrienne, with the most confidence voice I ever had in my entire life, I said, "Not yet." But
Wonderful.
you see, it's just, of course, a few years later, perhaps what they said, that stayed with me, and my reaction to that planted a seed in my mind. And of course, few years later, I was delivering properties like other people deliver groceries,
Yeah.
so to my clients. So I don't know. I think creativity is a great solution.
Mm.
It's unique. It's something you don't even know you are capable of. And it's
I think
like a beautiful muscle. Like a intelligence muscle. If you want. It's growing. The more you do it, the more you need it, and
yeah,
it
and
becomes you.
I think that that's an amazing release. I mean, I think when things get to such a stage where you are so stressed and you really, you don't know, you haven't got anybody to talk to, you don't know where you're going, and sometimes you just can't do anymore. It's a case of, it's like somebody trying to get up Mount Everest and they just can't take another step. You just can't do another thing. The best thing to do is do nothing, literally. Just switch off and go, do you know what? I'm not going to do this. I can't think anymore. I'm not going to, and I'm going to. What you did was amazing. You did some painting, which is incredible. That's wonderful. What I do is I will read something really, some nonsense novel or something that's just very entertaining and just just entertains me and takes me totally away, or I'll go and see a movie or something, just to take my mind into a totally different sort of frame of mind. And often what happens in that situation is it gives you the release, maybe just phone up a friend and say, let's just meet up for a coffee or something, so that you're talking about different things, and it just takes you away from that dreadful deep situation where you're sort of literally beating your head against a brick wall and you don't know where to turn. And so just don't just go, okay, enough's enough, I can't take this anymore, I'm going to switch off, I'm going to watch a silly movie, and I'm going to sit there and cry. I'm going to, watch an old movie. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to do what Marina does and paint. Or if I'm really in a bad mood, I mean, I've heard the wonderful Louise Hay talks about this in one of her books, and says, if you're in a really bad, if you're angry about something, if you get a pillow and you start hitting it, that gets rid of a lot of, a lot of the tension. I have done that on a couple of occasions, I have to say, but mostly when things get really tough for me, I tend to I will just switch off and I'll go, I can't do this anymore, and it's a case of I literally have to shut down and I go, I'm not thinking about it anymore. I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to watch a soppy movie on television, or I'm going to do something, because you can guarantee that the next day you can go to sleep. I've done this before now. I've read in bed, and that's one of my joys. I would read in bed and I'll put the book down and I wake up in the morning and I feel like a different person. I'm all refreshed, and then I can face whatever it is, whatever challenge or obstacle that was beating me down the day before has now gone into perspective, because I don't think that there's anything. I think that, and this was also Louise Hay, she said that, if you saw your life on the stage as a play, you'd probably go, oh my God, that's so dramatic, and just be in awe of the drama. But I think we take ourselves and our lives far too seriously. I really do. And sometimes I know we think that things are really bad or they're awful or they're very, very serious. But if you laugh at stuff, um, you find that somehow it's gonna change anyway. Things never stay the same. Everything's in a case of flux, and it's always going to be moving and changing. And it's like the water. It's like water, isn't it? The ocean, the seas. They're always moving and flowing and ebbing, and that's part of life. So the worries that we have and the stresses that we give ourselves, because we're far worse than anybody else to ourselves, without desperate thoughts about things. Oh, what will I do if such and such and happens? What will I do if such and such and happens? And you know what? 9 times out of 10, the worst case scenario doesn't even happen. And you've spent all this time stressing yourself, maybe not eating, maybe making yourself even physically sick, and unwell, bringing in all sorts of colds and coughs and all sorts of things that are happening to you, when really, if you'd have just said, you know what, it'll be what it is and it's going to happen anyway, I'm not going to worry about it, and then suddenly it's like a little sort of a little wave instead of this great big huge thing that you could sort of take a surfboard to, and it's just this little sort of, oh, is that it? Is that it? Oh my gosh, I'm really surprised. I thought it was going to be much worse than that. Yeah, well, it wasn't, because you built it up into this. We've all heard the expression, mountains out of molehills. And if you think about a mountain and then a little molehill, you're like, yeah, I did. I blew it up all out of proportion. And then when the event actually happens, and you think, what was I worrying about? Why did I stress about that? For a week I didn't sleep. And it's crazy. And we do this. And so we have to say, you know what? And it isn't easy, because we all do it. You have to just say, I'm going to change that thought. I'm going to stop stressing about that thing. I'm going to grow another shell. I'm going to stop being so uncomfortable. I'm going to read a good book, or paint a picture, or do something, paint a room, do something, go for a drive, take yourself out for the day, do something to get yourself out of that mindset of that stress, and just turn it on its head. Say, okay, well, I can't do anything about it now, so it's totally out of my control. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and sit in the park this afternoon, or I'm going to go for a long walk. Try doing that. Oh my God, sometimes going out and walking is it clears the head, it clears the body, and if you do it right, you can come back feeling absolutely invigorated, maybe get on with some work, or maybe not. Another few hours isn't going to make any difference. As I say, put your feet up and give yourself some me time. Just chill out, just enjoy yourself. Because I think that's what happens. People have these goals and they set themselves unrealistic targets. And you say, oh, I've got to do it by then. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I mean, now, I'm not saying, obviously, we all have certain targets or deadlines that we have to adhere to, especially if we work for somebody. We've got to, this has got to be done by today, or that's got to be done by tomorrow. So, okay, I'm not saying stuff like that, but I'm talking about self-imposed stresses, self-imposed things like, I need to write this, and it's got to be done by, well, I can't think of the words. I just can't think of the words. And what am I going to do? Well, there's no point sitting there looking at it used to be, if you had a typewriter in the olden days, a blank sheet of paper. Well, now it's just a blank Word document, and you can sit there and go, but it doesn't matter how much you stare at this white thing, the words aren't going to appear. So go out for a walk, make yourself a cup of coffee, go ring a friend, just go for a run round the block, do something, but take your mind off of that, because it'll suddenly come to you. You'll be out and you'll see something and you'll go, oh, this has often happened to me. And I go out and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could write a whole story about that, or I could write a whole blog about that. I could do this, I could do that. And you get inspired, because if you're sitting looking at a computer screen and nothing's coming back at you and you're getting no feedback from anybody, and you've got four walls and you're thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do now? You have to get out. You get out and just, even if you go to a shopping mall and you just sort of wander around and you see people, and maybe you go in for a cup of coffee, talk to the sales girl, talk to the girl in the the barista, and hi, how are you? Oh, I'm having the most dreadful day. It's awful, but I'm really glad I came out. What's you're really nice, thank you. You've got a lovely smile. You've made me feel so much better.
But Adrienne, I meant to ask you this few weeks ago, and then I just put it on my list of questions for me time.
Okay,
So
okay.
you see, while I was working, because I retired when I was 51 years old, and now I'm 54 years young.
Okay.
So, so before I retired, I always dreamed of this time when I will have time, and I will do other things than working so hard and being so stressed, and actually I realized that that stress was a second nature. The taking 150 calls a day, it was a high level of stress, but when that was gone, was nothing to replace with.
Mm.
So I went into a total black moment. I think I mentioned this to you before. I felt like an old Kodak, or like you have to take the picture into a black room, into a dark room to develop it.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what happened to me, because I had no idea what I'm going to do next. I had absolutely no clue. Nobody needed me anymore. Nobody complained anymore. Nobody wanted anything anymore from me, and I was free. I was free. And I remember Saint-Exupéry, when he landed fourth because he got the engine had the engine failure in the desert. He said, "Finally, I'm free." But then after 3 days, when nobody was looking for him, he started asking himself, "Okay, I'm free from where to where?" So
Yeah.
what's next? So I felt that in my life, and of course I become twice busier with a different type of stress. I call it excitement. Of course, it's not easy, because helping other people is always the hardest goal you could ever set yourself for. Because
Mm.
you never know if they're going to, after you unveil the true worth and show them who they are and prove them who they are, even then you don't know if they don't go back to nothing. So it's very stressful. So what you are doing, planting the seeds of greatness, this is how I call it. It's like farming for a great harvest, but you don't know if somebody is not going to step on that and kill that seed, that little plant.
Yeah.
So you see, even now, for example, I feel that people in my generation, they are the squeezed generation. It's like almost like between two life. So they think they left behind their own life, the busy, stressful life, and now they could enjoy their own life. But guess what? That's not happening, because their children, um, even if they're adults, they can't buy their own place. So they need help from mom and dad's bank, perhaps, or most
Yeah.
surely. And then
Yeah.
your parents, they start getting unwell. So they have nobody else to be there for them. So you are basically jumping from one drama to another with the fire extinguisher in your hands, trying to
Mhm.
help everyone, and still not doing anything for yourself. This is
Yeah.
exactly what's happening. That's the reality of this period of your life, when you think, okay, I'll make it, then I made it, and then again you become twice busier, you become twice as, like, maybe not twice, maybe 10 times more stressed than before, because you feel powerless. You can't help the people you love the most. They have to help themselves, but they can't. So you are witnessing their drama unfolding, and it's so painful. And it's the same when you go for a holiday. So most people who go on a holiday, they get sick.
Yeah.
So this stress is almost like your second nature. You can't live with it, you can't live without. So definitely, like you said, the balance is in your own ability to control your emotions, to control your thoughts.
Absolutely. And I actually think it's just something that you said just now. And I thought, you know what? Talking about people going on holiday, and often people who go on holiday, if they're, say they're working for a big company and they spend, nearly 2 weeks before they go away, getting everything, getting all the ducks in a row, getting everything sorted out. So making sure that every eventuality is covered while they're away for 2 weeks. So everything is done and they're right up to date to the minute they go on holiday. So they go on holiday Friday afternoon, they leave the office at 6 o'clock and they're off and they're like, oh, this is great. So they're already stressed. Then they've got to get there, they've got to pack and they've got to, get to the airport. And for the first 3 days of their holiday, they're still like wound up in this tight spring. It takes them about a week to actually really relax and really start chilling out. They're just getting into it. And what happens? They have to come home. And then they come home and then they go back into work on the Monday morning. And there's a slew of emails to answer. There's masses of work to answer, to do. And within, by lunchtime that day, it's like they've never been away. And it's what they're doing to themselves is they're using their holiday as their once a year me time. And you can't do that because what you were talking about before about, as we get older, I always call it women of a certain age. We get older, so our children are older. And then unfortunately, with the way a lot of the way life is now, they need help with mortgages, they need help with this, they need help with that. And as you so rightly say, and our parents are getting older too, obviously, and they get ill and infirm. And I can't tell you how many women I know, myself included, who've looked after one or both parents. And you're stuck in the middle and you suddenly think there's not enough of me to go round. And my book is all about that person sitting there and saying, what about me? When is it my turn? When is it me time? Because you can't keep giving and giving to others if you don't give to yourself. Because we talked before about resourcefulness and being resourceful. And if we keep giving out to other people, there's nothing left inside for us. We're eating on the run and we're not eating well because we're running around and we're jumping in the car and going off to see this one, looking after that one, going to this hospital, doing that, working, doing all these other things, looking after other people. And then suddenly one day, we're like that commercial. I don't know if you ever saw the commercial, Marina, where they had these two, I think they were bears? No. Rabbits? No, they weren't rabbits. I can't remember what they were. Anyway, they were drumming. They were drumming and they were pink. And they were battery operated. And one had a regular battery and it just went on and on and on and stopped. And the other one had a Duracell battery and just went on forever. Well, what I'm saying is that me time is the Duracell battery. Me time is when you call yourself back and you go, I can't give any more to others. I've got to start giving to myself. I've got to start looking after myself, because if I don't look after myself, there's not going to be anybody around to look after all these other people. And I'm not going to have the resources. I'm not going to have the energy I am not going to have any strength physically, not going to have any strength, because you can't keep going on forever, eating badly or, drinking too much wine, whatever it is, and going back into that stress thing where you're looking after other people. And yeah, you can't abandon your children. No, you can't abandon your parents either. But you have to give yourself that love, that time that you so richly deserve. Because if you don't, you'll be no use to anybody else anyway. So you have to
Wow.
be aware of that.
Wow, Adrian, you are such a, I don't know, such a gift, such a
Thank you.
gift to me personally, to our listeners, and we are, every single one of us is so grateful for, you know, bringing this into the focus. The me time should be your focus, because
Mm,
stress is when you disconnect yourself from life,
yeah.
from breathing, from your mind, and you allowed adverse situations or people or forces to take over. You give in, and nothing is that important, nothing is that urgent
Mm.
for you to have a heart attack. Nothing is more important than keeping your calm under duress. And um, of course, everybody got so many horror stories, even on a daily basis. And we are coming to a close to our episode today. And because Easter is coming and is a beautiful break from the daily commitments and commuting, and you perhaps could spend more time with people you love, or you're by yourself, or have more me time. What will be,
Mm.
for our listeners, what would you recommend they should be doing in the next couple of days? 5 most important things that they cannot go without.
Well, I would say that what they need to do is to sleep, get enough sleep, because sleep really does recharge you. Eat well, be with people that you love and that make you laugh and that you make them laugh and that you feel good being with. Just relax, just let the outside world go, and just invite people over for lunch, just go out to see people, just be with people that you care about. So that's me time too. That's just being good to yourself. You're not getting up to an alarm. You're going to get up and just chill out, maybe go to the gym and have a nice workout in the morning, or go for a swim, go for a walk. Just look after yourself. Really feed yourself well. Really enjoy some good food, so you're not sitting eating at your desk for 4 days. That that you're just relaxing and having fun with some people. Just, this is what life should be like all the time. But if you've got these 4 days, don't waste them by saying, "Oh, I've got to do this." I've got, just chill, just take a breath and say, "This Easter, I am really going to look after myself." Even if you've got children or husband or family, whoever needs you, say, "Yeah, I will be with you, but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to look after me." So I'm going to make sure that I'm eating well, I'm sleeping well, and I'm going to feel good about myself, so that when I go back to work on Tuesday morning, I'm going to feel great. I'm going to say, "Yeah, I had a wonderful time because I did exactly what I want to do." So that's my, I don't know if that was 5 things.
So beautiful. So me time is a necessity. Start
Oh,
doing
totally.
what's necessary. Me
Yeah.
time. Then what's possible. And then you realize that you are doing the impossible. From both of us, till next time, have plenty of lovely me time, and we can't wait to meet you next Thursday. Over to you, Adrian.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marina. Yeah, have a wonderful Easter. and eat chocolate if that's what you want to do. Eat lots of chocolate eggs. Have wine. Have lots of lovely food, and just enjoy yourself and just be, because you're a human being, not a human doing. Remember that, and have a lovely time. I wish you lots of love and speak to you next week. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.